Hi, this is Tiombe Lockhart, and we are here on Room to Womb, and we will be discussing with a good friend of mine. We will be discussing self-worth and sexuality and money and pleasure with a good friend of mine, Brittany. I've known her for several years, and she was my doula, and we were able to go through all types of different subconscious programming and trauma, and she really supported me in doing a lot of work while I was pregnant so that my son could be cleared of a lot of ancestral trauma. And she also does a lot of different things as well as working as a doula in Houston. And Brittany, do you want to just tell everyone what you do and what you're working on and all of the exciting new businesses?
So I'm Brittany of Erotic Black Woman. Black is BLKWMN. I am on this journey of exploring my eroticism as a spiritual practice, and through that journey, I'm also assisting women in creating an erotic experience through their journeys as well. So I'm excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me, Tiombe. This is amazing. This is my first time being able to present Erotic Black Woman, so I'm really excited about that. It's full moon, manifestation.
Yes. Well, I'm very excited to have you. I feel as if your knowledge that you've given me has been really healing for me, and I think it's really important that we speak about pleasure. I think that there's just been a lot of programming in our society, in our religions, at least for me growing up, that pleasure was seen as wrong or dirty or something like, or being lazy. Enjoying yourself was being lazy. So what were you taught about pleasure and fulfillment as a young girl?
I don't think I was really taught anything about pleasure and fulfillment. It really didn't exist. I don't really think the women that had a hand in raising me even knew what pleasure and fulfillment felt like. It's nothing that I've ever heard being expressed or anything. Like just this tremendous amount of joy and liberation,
Yeah.
So it wasn't really taught. It wasn't, not even really, it wasn't taught at all. It wasn't something that we often talked about or even talked about at all.
Yeah. I know I didn't know about it at all either, and I feel like for me, I experienced sexual abuse at a very young age, so even though I repressed a lot of it, I thought of pleasure, I associated pleasure with deception, with trauma, with taking my power, with all of these things. So I mean, I've had to, not only was it not talked about for me, but it was associated with just super toxic energies. So I've had to kind of just like rebuild what my idea and what pleasure is and all of those things and really like recreate it, in a way. Do you think that pleasure and self-worth and money are all connected? Well, let's not talk about money yet. But do you think that self-worth and pleasure are connected?
Most definitely. I don't see how having an enjoyable experience or an experience that's not joyous, how it can affect how you feel about yourself, and connecting like your worth and joy are connected, you know what I'm saying? So if you don't have joy, how can you have self-worth, So I do think that those two are interconnected with one another.
For sure. Yeah, I think that, like, if you are constantly feeling bad about yourself and unworthy and like just pushing yourself down and thinking all of these self-defeating thoughts, that like you're not going to be thinking about joy, you're not going to be thinking about pleasure, you're not going to be thinking about that you even deserve pleasure or joy,
Yeah.
What would you like to share about your journey with self-worth?
So currently my journey with self-worth is rooted in my attractiveness, and my attractiveness being my ability to adorn myself to attract the things that I desire. Putting on my jewelry, my nice fabrics, doing my hair, putting on my oils, all of those things bring me so much joy, and it makes me feel worthy of, I deserve everything that I want,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think it's kind of like something you can be something you decorate to where it's like, you know what, I'm going to put on this and I'm going to put on that, and you just it accentuates our beauty,
right.
and I think
it keeps it in a state of like a ritual. Like when I'm looking at my jewelry that's crystals and all of these things, it helps me remember, like, this is what I'm focused on, this is what I'm attracting, this is what I'm manifesting, this is what I'm getting pregnant with, these are my desires. So.
Will you expand on this is what I'm getting pregnant with? Will you expand on that idea, just that thought, for those people that this might be new to them?
Yes, so it's like your psychic womb. Being able to create your life through manifesting from your womb space, and not necessarily birthing babies, like physical babies. More like your material babies, like manifesting and attracting the things that you truly desire. Work-wise.
So this is what you offer with your offerings.
Yes, working with the moon cycles to create the life it is that you truly desire, that you deserve, that we're deserving of.
When did you always feel like you were deserving of this type of life?
Yes, but I didn't know how to have it, how to create it. I was birthing babies and not birthing the things that I wanted to do, and that turned into resentment and just not happy, not being able to tap into my abundance because I'm so focused on this is not the life that I want, until I could really like take responsibility that I was creating that, instead of wanting, my children's father to create it for me. So I had to, tap into that feminine energy. My great teacher, Kenya Stevens, that's been the greatest tool the greatest teachings I've received and created in my life, because it comes with so much freedom and liberation, where I don't feel that I have to sacrifice anything. And that's another thing, like, oh, I have to sacrifice this part of myself. Feeling like that I had to like sacrifice so many things in order to have things. I had to get rid of those limiting beliefs in order to really manifest the things that I wanted, the beautiful life that I am currently living right now. You know, it was having to tap into my sensuality, my sexuality, on a very deep level. And it gets deeper and deeper and deeper as we evolve and as we grow. But just understanding that suffering it's not meant for me. Not meant for me, you know?
Yeah. When did you decide, or when did you break away from saying, okay, I'm taking responsibility for my life, and let go of the resentment that you say that you have had? I know that there's probably mothers that are listening to this, and even I think that it's something that all mothers probably deal with, no matter what your situation is, that you feel as if you are sacrificing for your child, and that's cool, but sometimes we get caught up in the victimization or perfectionism, that things should be this way like they used to be. Or I know with myself, like not being able to create this certain way that I used to create can build a lot of resentment. But how did you learn to, I guess, like take control of your life, but do it in a feminine way? Because that's what it sounds like to me, to where there is this, you have this direction, but at the same time you're flexible with the direction.
Right. So at one point in my life, I was at this crossroad where I was like, I want to be single, but I want my family, you know? And I was on the fence about both. Like, me wanting to be single, was I being selfish? Me wanting my family, was that me sacrificing really what I wanted? Because, you know, I started having children very early. I had my first daughter when I was 20, my second daughter when I was 25, my son when I was 27. So my entire 20s was devoted to mothering. It wasn't really devoted to my creativity. You know, it was because I was, you know, birthing babies, but that wasn't really the reality that I wanted to give birth to. But because I didn't have the tools to create the life that I truly wanted, my mind and my body worked, my womb and my brain working together, it was like, oh, you want to create? Well, let me give you this baby. Because I didn't know how to bring forth my creativity. So it wasn't until I learned how to work with the moon and things of that nature, really working with the moon, that's like the biggest work that's consistent in my life, is working with the moon phases. That's when my life became joyous, pleasurable. When I began to feel worthy, because I remember writing in my journal years then that my self-worth was rooted in my ability to accept myself, you know, to just accept that this is what I want now. I wanted it before, but I wasn't brave enough, I wasn't courageous enough, I wasn't creative enough to even think that I deserved it or could have it. So yeah. I guess it's just like also just like a switch of you deciding, you know, like that you deserve it. You deserve, like you said, it's letting go of the suffering. For myself, you know, I mean, just when you have so many things, wild things happen to you in your childhood,
and traumatic things happen to you in your childhood that program your subconscious at an early age to just to see. I was gonna say darkness, but I don't want to say that. But just so many just wild, really traumatic things happen to you. You think that that's real life, like, and so suffering, like, you think, okay, well, that's just a part of it. And I feel like a lot of Black women, just from post-traumatic slave syndrome, just we think that it's supposed to be hard. We think that life is supposed to be hard, and I mean, it just doesn't go to just to that collective, but more people. But that's what we are, so that's what I know, and I just feel like, yeah, I'm starting to myself just embrace more of the idea of like pleasure and enjoying yourself and really like allowing. What were you saying?
Being able to relax.
Yeah.
And not feel guilty. I see so many moms who share that, oh, I don't have my baby, I'm just chilling and I feel so guilty for doing nothing. And that's so crazy, because that's when we are able to heal. Our bodies can only heal. We can only heal that trauma and those things in a relaxed state. We can't sit at the altar and just be like, oh my God, I gotta release this. Like, no, that's not how this works. You have to be in a cool, calm, collected space, and relax your being. Just breathe and do nothing.
Yeah.
That's the easiest thing, and that's what we need to start with ease. The easiest thing for us to do is to take a nap. Start your healing with that. Hey, I'm gonna take this nap, you gonna rejuvenate me. I'm gonna have a dream. I'm gonna have to release something. It's gonna happen in another way, So, get the naps in.
Yes, and bring the ease in. It's just, I'm learning to allow the feminine in, and to do that is just to learn, just practice allowing things to happen. And I think just trusting and allowing, you know what I mean? Rather than just like, we're taught like force, gotta go get it. And like, gotta work. You might be sick, you might be tired, but you gotta work. And it's just like, that's just not the vibe anymore.
It's not. That's outdated. It's not with the times. I think that we're moving into this space where it's kind of like we need to create these communities, because I think one thing, so I'm speaking for myself, when I decided to become a single woman, I never said that I was going to become a single mother. That's like one thing that I will not like associate myself with, because I think that women who subscribe to single mothering struggle from trying to do it all by themselves, and it doesn't have to be that way. You can create a community of people who you can trust because you trust yourself, and you'll attract your community. There's no reason to suffer in mothering at all.
Yeah.
And I think that I would be like, I'm a single woman with children, but I'm not a single mother. I feel like saying I'm a single mother is a slap in my community space. I have so much assistance when it comes to my children, and I'm in West Africa right now because of it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. It also, I think, has to do so much of like what we affirm. Yeah, just like what we're saying, what we say to ourselves. I hear so many mothers say over and over, it's so hard. And I'm just like, yeah, it's gonna be hard if you keep saying that, And not saying that it doesn't get challenging. It can be challenging sometimes.
I used to say, like, when I was in that space, like, oh, this shit hard. One day I was just like, you know what? Hard is a surface. The surface is hard. This is a challenge, like, this is challenging me but it's challenging me because I know I'm better than this. You know what I'm saying? I deserve more than this. So what am I gonna do?
Warm to warm.
And what other ways do you see our ancestors' womb trauma show up in our present day, on the Black Women's Collective?
So the question makes me think about my day today. Today I went to the dungeons here in Cape Coast.
Oh, wow.
And when I walked into the dungeons, my room got very, very heavy, as if it was remembering something. And then it triggered this response to where I was just like crying. And it was just like, it was traumatic. I couldn't even finish the tour. But also coming out of there, I was like, okay, but look at where I'm at now. You know what I'm saying? But look where we are now. Like, I decided in that moment, moments later, to not trauma bond with that experience that I was having. I understand that the trauma of our ancestors affects us, but I think that if we start to tell a different story and creating different stories or new stories that are full of joy and bliss and opulence and abundance, that we can like rewrite history. And I think that that's what we're doing now. But I think that our emotional connection to our slave trauma is keeping us from really progressing as a people, especially women, because that's not our story anymore. And we have to detach from that. It's not a forget, it's a detachment that has to happen. And so I'm seeing myself having that detachment from that story. And it's just like, okay, I'm creating another story. When I'm an ancestor, you know, my children are going to be able to tell stories of, oh, my mom got to travel the world. She took us with her. You know what I'm saying? She was healthy. She was running around with my children till she was, you know what I'm saying? So it's like a new story that I want to connect myself to. And even connecting to myself to the story of when we were living in milk and honey, you know, when everything was sweet. So it's kind of like coming back to that and connecting to that story, and not holding on to so much of that trauma, because I think that holding on to that is just like the brain is continuing to create that reality for us in so many different ways, systematic ways. So
yep, I definitely agree. Like, I feel as if we, first of all, it didn't just start, our story and our history did not just start with slavery. So there were a lot of things that happened before. There were queens and kings and civilizations and a lot of things that happened before. And I think that it's a trap to just continuously trauma bond over slavery. I know that.
And even connecting with what was going on during slavery, it's like we were having like great moments. We were still giving birth. We were still living. We were still thriving. We were still creating new ways to communicate, creating new ways to, you know what I'm saying? It was so much innovation and I want to say joy and things, and having to be innovative in that way. You know, it had to be joy.
Yeah. Because it had to go somewhere. It didn't just stop. Because, it's so true. It's so true. Yeah.
So today I was thinking, I was like, you know, I I'm here and I'm having this experience, but there's another part missing. Something's not adding up for me. And it's just like, what part of the truth is missing? And I think that the part of the truth that's missing, when it comes to me, it's going to be coming to everybody else as well. It's going to be like this new awakening. And then that's when the change that we want to see within our people will truly happen. And not, you know how they say it takes you twice as long to like remove that person that you've been with for so long, you know? You've been with somebody 10 years, it takes 20 years to completely get them out of your system. I think that that's the same thing with like this slavery narrative, is that it's what 300-400 years. It's gonna take 600 to 800 years, but we have to continue to do the work. You know what I'm saying? We have to continue to create art that's forward progressive for our children. You know what I'm saying? Like, and not just having them connected to slavery and connected to that emotional attachment, because I think that's where the true stagnation of our people resides, is in that emotional connection to the history, and not even connection, the emotional attachment to it.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, and charging it emotionally, and like it's strange because I was watching, I was looking at Netflix with a family member, and I think like the Harriet Tubman or something like that movie came up, and she was just like, "Oh yes, I want to see it." And I was like, "Why?"
I don't want to relive.
Why? We know, like, we get it, and it's just like, to me it's like more subconscious programming, and just trauma programming, to be just like, do you remember? And you're like, oh, we gotta fight and we gotta raise up, and it's just like, I find it like fight. I find like raising up or standing up to something, I find it by doing my inner work, and I find it by changing my perspective, and definitely still going through trauma and still honoring the ancestors that did go through trauma, and understanding that I'm letting go of ancestral trauma from my womb especially, but at the same time, like you said, just like creating new stories and knowing that it just wasn't about suffering and pain. It also was about just like people were creating, innovating, like you said, and like making quilts with maps on them, and like, you know, doing all types of innovative things. So yeah, for sure. What tools would you offer up for anyone listening that wants to get more in tune with their own pleasure and their own self-worth, and also let us know how people can find you on the internet and learn more about your offerings?
Yes, so one tool for women that I suggest is tapping into your eroticism. And one of my favorite readings is The Uses of the Erotic by Audre Lorde. And me coming across that really changed my life, because when I used to think of eroticism, I thought of sex and pleasing men and things of that nature. But it wasn't until I read Uses of the Erotic, and the erotic as a power source, and it not being this pornographic thing, that shit changed my life. Okay, it has changed my life, because it's power, and sometimes I'm afraid of it. Like some days I'm afraid of my own power. It's just like, and then it's me being afraid because I'm thinking like, oh my God, they're gonna think I'm a bitch, like. But because it's just like rooted in no, like, I'm gonna do what I want to do, and I'm not gonna suffer. So, you know, that's one tool. Another one is tracking your menstrual cycle, and working with your menstrual cycle. And if you want to know more about these things, how to work with the moon cycles, you can find me on Instagram at Erotic Black Woman, EroticBlackWMN on Instagram. And that's where I'm at. Instagram is my webpage at the moment.
Thank you. Yes, I definitely, sexuality is so powerful. I definitely was not taught about my sexuality at all. I was taught more about it being wrong, and then I think when you shove sexuality down to just it being wrong, it just becomes perverted, and it becomes priests and all that stuff. Not all priests, because I know there's probably somebody Catholic listening, so I'm not trying to bash everybody, but I do think when there's a repression of emotions, things that are natural, it's going to come out in some way. And I definitely think that it's important for people to learn, and even when children get of the right age, for them to know that their sexuality is not just something that is, just sex. It's actual power. Mm-hmm. And it's important for everyone to really know that, but especially I feel like that, just knowing your power, it growing up with your sexuality, that causes a lot of what am I trying to say? It just prevents people from taking advantage of you, I feel.
Right. The knowing that you have about yourself, you don't feel like you're a predator.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I think that, just the programming with just so much sexual repression and religion and with society is just really, it was very smart. And it for a long time, it kept women, especially women, in this place of not really having their power, not owning their power. Once I started to understand about different goddesses, Sekhmet, or, Lilith, women who were just I don't give a fuck about trying to fit into this society. I'm owning my power. That's when I feel like I definitely noticed a change and a shift, and I was able to kind of dig into that. We're just taught we have to be nice, or we have to fit into this or that, and it's just no, I'm beginning to love all parts of myself. All parts of myself, just everything, parts that I feel that I used to feel are unlovable, and just learning to love all of those parts so that that other people can celebrate those too. So, and I think that's just important. Do you have anything that you would like to add to this conversation before we come to a close?
So when you're talking about sexuality and children and things like that, so in other cultures, it's taught from birth, because it's not nothing to be ashamed of, because that's how we populate the earth. You know what I'm saying? That's how we grow our bloodlines and things of that nature. So I think that finding ways to teach our children age appropriate ways of being sensual, and starting with sensuality instead of going straight into sexuality. Teaching our girls how to adorn themselves, teaching our boys how to take care of themselves and how to adorn themselves as well, and become electric beings so that they can create the lives that they desire as well, So
yeah,
work. We got work to do, but it's being done. I wrote something down today. What did it say? It says, if I see myself if I see myself, or no, if I see other women as me, then I see them as free because I'm liberated. So I don't really, I know that because I'm practicing this lifestyle, that this lifestyle is happening in other little worlds as well. So
Portal.
yeah.
Yeah.
Brings me
Yeah.
because we don't suffer.
No, not at all. Not at all. And going back to children, like I'm teaching my son now, how does this feel in your body? Like what when something happens or he's upset, I'm like, how does this feel? Like, how does your body feel? And just bringing it back to your body, I just feel like that's so important because my body, now that I've let go of so much trauma, I really go on my body, how my body feels and what's clogged or what my throat, is my throat tightening up here? Is my solar plexus like cramping up? How does my body feel? And letting my body be my compass. And I think that that's just so important, just getting in touch with how your body feels with decisions and choices and all of that is important. And I think that that leads into sensuality later on in life and then sexuality later on in life, and just listening to our bodies, because if we respect our bodies and if we listen to our bodies, then our partners will reflect how we feel about our bodies as well. And yeah, I think that and going back to what you said, I think that there are a lot of women who are doing a lot of work and who are letting go of just like all of the trauma and the suffering that we have experienced. So I think that it is pretty exciting. It is pretty exciting. So thank you so much, Brittany, for being on Worldwide FM. I really appreciate your wisdom, and I know that there are women and or men listening that this is going to be medicine for them. So I really appreciate you coming on today. And go check out Brittany's offering. She's an amazing healer, woman, queen. And thank you again.
Thank you. Metasi.
Yindi Acera.